that is a disturbing trend that is happening right now, and that is to remove what makes the races unique in a fantasy setting. And we don't have to wonder why, because the people doing it are telling us why. It's to fight against racism, right? Like they're removing racism by removing what makes the orcs and what makes the dwarves. Now, the problem with this is that obviously these aren't races. In the fantasy setting, they're pretty much like different species. An orc and a dwarf are not humans. They're just different races, like different species altogether. And the reason they exist is why fantasy is awesome. Is that they create drama, they create interesting dynamics. It's why Lord of the Rings was so popular, because you took all of these different races that do not get along with each other, right? Like you have Legolas, you have Gimli, but they have to put aside their differences in order to fight Sauron, and it makes for very interesting storytelling. But Dungeons and Dragons tell us that no, this is not the case anymore. Orcs are not evil, so in Lord of the Rings, for example, if Dungeons and Dragons had the say, then the orcs would just be misunderstood. Gondor should open the doors for the orcs. And then the question is, like, how do you even have a story? Like, what is there to write about? And I seen this with Age of Wonders 4, where the races do not have any uniqueness. And it's such a small change that you don't think it really matters, but at the end of the day, it just removes the charm from the game. Races just become a cosmetic thing. And the game is just bland, it's boring. I know that some people like it, and they like it due to the gameplay, but I like it due to the campaign and the interesting stories that it had to tell, and Age of Wonders 4 has none of that, and it just shows what happens when you walk down this path, when you're like, oh, well, we're going to fight off racism in the real world by removing the races from a fictional game that very few people are playing today. So yeah, it is upsetting, I gotta say, as most of the changes that are coming from American corporations, it's probably to do with raising their ESG points a little bit and not with actually caring about what the customer wants, but it is what it is, you know, what can you do about it? You get to see the same in Picard, like the Romulans were acting exactly like humans, there was no difference between them, to the point where you have to ask, like, why even have alien races? But anyway, right, because that's my opinion, and because that's what I think, people have shown me this article, and it's about the Drow being ejected from the official lore of Pathfinder. Now, the Drow have already been retconned in Dungeons & Dragons due to the fact that they are a race which enslaves people, and their skin is dark, so we can't have that in a video game. I guess if they were white, then it would be fine. But no, they retconned the Drow because you can't have an evil race anymore. And now Pathfinder is just getting rid of them altogether. Now, the argument that they're giving is that it looks too similar to Dungeons and Dragons. I gotta say, I don't really buy it, because you would have to get rid of other races as well. I mean, Pathfinder has orcs, Pathfinder has normal elves, right? So to me, this looks like more of an excuse to get rid of them rather than the legitimate concern that is too much like Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, Pathfinder itself is deeply enmeshed in Dungeons and Dragons' identity, so I don't know what they're talking about. But if you want to believe them, that's fine. I will give them points for something, though, and that is the fact that they're replacing the race with something cool. There's going to be snake people instead of the Drow, so they're going to have, like, well, not really lizard men, but a type of snake creatures that live underground. And hopefully they will serve the same function, but I doubt it, because Pathfinder did say that they want to get rid of slavery in their game. Which is unfortunate, because slavery creates a lot of interesting storytelling and campaigns. I mean, imagine, you can be a slave and you have to start a slave rebellion in order to escape. Or maybe you used to be a slave and then you break free and you can enslave the masters, and it's a question of morality then. It's like, just how much can you do before you become the bad guy? But like, that would assume that games would have depth and meaning. Still, I can understand just a little bit on the idea of some people saying that, well, Dungeons and Dragons recently have tried to limit what other people can do with their IP, because up until now they allowed other companies to use some of their IP in order to create their own board games in the hopes that people will be attracted to, let's say, Pathfinder, and then they may be willing to try some Dungeons and Dragons out. But recently they're trying to stop that. So you may say that, well, okay, well, that Pathfinder is really concerned and they want to change things so that they're more different than Dungeons and Dragons. But the reason I don't believe that is the fact that they would have to change just so freaking much. They would have to just revamp the entire game. So this is why I do not accept what they are saying. Apparently, Jason said that the team initially considered reinterpreting the draw, but found that brooding matriarchal people with a penchant for spider aesthetics so deeply enmeshed in D&D, and it works that they felt more confident in starting fresh. Yeah, I genuinely do not believe this. It's also interesting that Drow are a very popular race. I mean, the reason you have evil races is to have something to fight against, right? So you have the goblins, which you can fight at the early levels. And then maybe you have the orcs. But the Drow are such an interesting race because they have access to magic. They're very powerful. They're strong. Their women are also very hot. So you can create like interesting characters and interesting dynamics. And then when you have like a powerful evil race, you can have like a Dritz von Urden, which was a good Drow. And the reason he is an interesting character is literally that. He is the good Drow. Everyone else is evil, but he's good. We're not going to have that anymore, are we? Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.